Good evening, dear listeners. This is Elena, and I'm so grateful you've chosen to spend this time with me. Before we begin, I'd love to ask you to hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. And please tell me which city you're calling home today. I want to see just how far a woman's voice can truly travel across this world. Now settle in, because what I'm about to share with you isn't just my story. It's a testament to every woman who's ever been underestimated, dismissed, or told she didn't matter. This is the story of how I refused to disappear. For 46 years, I thought I understood my life. I thought I knew the man sleeping beside me every night. Gabriel and I had built what looked like a perfect existence in the rolling hills of Vermont, just outside a small town called Millbrook. We had a beautiful colonial home with blue shutters and a wraparound porch. We had two wonderful daughters, Sophia and Charlotte, both grown now with families of their own. We had 4 grandchildren who filled our holidays with laughter and chaos, and we had what I believed was an unbreakable bond forged through nearly 5 decades of partnership. I was 71 years old, and Gabriel was 73. We'd survived raising teenagers, career changes, financial struggles, health scares, and all the ordinary challenges that come with building a life together. I'd earned every gray hair on my head and every line on my face. I'd earned the right to grow old peacefully, beside the man I'd loved since I was 25 years old. Or so I thought. The unraveling began on a Thursday afternoon in April. I remember because the lilacs were just starting to bloom, their sweet scent drifting through our kitchen window as I prepared lunch. Gabriel had always been a creature of habit. For 30 years, he'd worked as a senior accountant at Morrison & Associates, a respected firm in Burlington. He left the house at 7:30 every morning, came home at 5:45 every evening, and his routine rarely varied. But lately, something had shifted. That Thursday, he came downstairs wearing cologne. Not aftershave, mind you, but actual cologne. Something expensive and woody that I'd never smelled before. In 46 years of marriage, Gabriel had never been a cologne man. He was Old Spice and practicality, nothing more. "Meeting with a new client," he said when he caught me staring. His eyes didn't quite meet mine as he grabbed his leather briefcase from the hall table. "Big account. Need to make a good impression." The words themselves were innocent enough, but something in his tone felt wrong. Too casual, too rehearsed, like he'd practiced the explanation in front of a mirror. I watched him through the kitchen window as he walked to his Audi, and I noticed he checked his reflection in the car window before getting in. Gabriel had never been vain, never. I told myself I was being paranoid. We were in our 70s, for heaven's sake. What could possibly be happening? But once you notice one thing, you start noticing everything. And I began to see patterns I'd been blind to before. The late nights at the office became more frequent. Gabriel would text me around 4 in the afternoon, saying he had to work late, that I shouldn't wait up. When he came home, he'd smell like wine and something else. Perfume. Sweet and floral, nothing like anything I wore. When I asked about these late nights, he'd sigh with exasperation, as if I were being unreasonable. "Elena, the firm is expanding. I've told you this. We're taking on new clients, and someone has to handle the workload. Would you rather I lost my position at my age?" The guilt trip worked every time. I'd back down, apologize for questioning him, and he'd pat my hand like I was a child who needed reassurance. Looking back, I see how perfectly he manipulated me, how he used my own fears about our age and security against me. Then there were the phone calls. Gabriel had always been attached to his phone for work, but now he guarded it like a precious jewel. He'd take calls in the garage, in the backyard, anywhere but near me, and when I'd walk into a room, he'd quickly tilt the screen away or set it face down on the table. When I asked who he was talking to, the answer was always the same: work. Always work. But the thing that truly awakened my suspicions was the credit card statement. I'd always managed our household finances while Gabriel handled the investments and retirement accounts. It was our system, one we'd maintained for decades. I paid the bills, balanced the checkbook, made sure we stayed within budget. So when the Visa statement arrived in early May, I opened it like I always did. That's when I saw them. Charges I didn't recognize. A jewelry store in Burlington, $800. A boutique hotel in Lake Placid, $600. A restaurant I'd never heard of, $215. Flowers from an upscale florist, $175. And all of these charges had one thing in common. I hadn't been there for any of them. My hands trembled as I studied the statement. There were more charges going back 3 months. Thousands of dollars spent on things I knew nothing about. Wine, expensive dinners, hotel rooms, gifts. And Gabriel had been so careful, or so he thought. He'd been using our joint credit card, probably assuming I wouldn't look too closely, that I'd just pay the bill like I always did. I sat at our kitchen table for a long time, the statement spread out before me, and I felt something crack inside my chest. Not my heart breaking, not yet. This was something colder, sharper. This was the sound of my illusions shattering. I could have confronted him right then. Part of me wanted to. But another part of me, the part that had learned to be strategic over 46 years of marriage, held back. I needed to understand the full picture before I made any moves. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. So I started watching, really watching. I began documenting things. I took photos of the credit card statements. I noted the times Gabriel left the house and when he returned. I became a detective in my own marriage, and what I discovered made me physically ill. Gabriel was having an affair. That much became obvious. But it was more than just an affair. He was living an entirely separate life, one I knew nothing about. And worse, he was planning something. I could feel it in the way he looked at me now, with a mixture of guilt and calculation, like he was working up the courage to do something terrible. The confrontation came on a warm evening in June. I'd made Gabriel's favorite dinner, pot roast with root vegetables, exactly the way his mother used to make it. I'd set the table with our good china, lit candles, even opened a bottle of the wine he liked. I wanted everything to be perfect for what I knew was coming. He barely touched his food, just pushed it around his plate, his mind clearly elsewhere. I watched him, this man I'd shared my entire adult life with, and I barely recognized him. When had he become a stranger? "Elena," he said finally, setting down his fork with a deliberate clink against the china. "We need to have a conversation." My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice steady. "About what, darling?" He still couldn't look at me. After 46 years, the coward couldn't even meet my eyes. "About us, about our marriage. Elena, I think it's time we talked about getting a divorce." There it was, the words I'd been dreading, hanging in the air between us like poison gas. I'd known they were coming, but hearing them still felt like being struck. I carefully set down my own fork, folded my hands in my lap, and waited. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," Gabriel continued, and I could hear the rehearsed quality to his words. He'd practiced this speech. "We've grown apart over the years. We want different things. I feel like I've been living someone else's life, and I need to find myself before it's too late." Find himself. At 73 years old, Gabriel needed to find himself. The absurdity of it would have been funny if it wasn't so devastating. "I see," I said quietly. "And what exactly do you want to find, Gabriel?" He shifted uncomfortably. "I need freedom, Elena. I need to experience life on my own terms. We got married so young, I never got to explore who I really am." What a carefully constructed lie. What a perfectly packaged excuse for selfishness and betrayal. But I didn't call him on it. Not yet. "I want to make this as easy as possible," he continued, gaining confidence now that I wasn't fighting back. "I've already spoken with an attorney. Lawrence Blackwell, he's one of the best. He's helped me draw up a fair settlement proposal." Fair. That word again. Gabriel's version of fair. He slid a folder across the table. I looked down at it but didn't touch it. "What's in there?" I asked. "The terms. I'll keep the house, the investment portfolio, the retirement accounts. You can have your personal belongings, of course, and I'm prepared to give you a monthly allowance. $3,000 should be sufficient for your needs." $3,000, after 46 years of marriage. After raising his children, managing his household, supporting his career, sacrificing my own dreams so he could chase his. $3,000 a month and my jewelry box. That was what Gabriel thought I was worth. "Everything is in your name," I said slowly. "The house, the accounts, the investments." "Well, yes." He had the grace to look uncomfortable. I was always the primary earner. It made sense to keep everything in my name for tax purposes. You understand? Oh, I understood. I understood perfectly. Gabriel had spent 46 years making sure I had no legal claim to anything we'd built together, and now he was going to use that against me. I need time to think about this, I said. His jaw tightened. Take a week, Elena, but I'm not changing my mind. And honestly, fighting this will only make things harder for both of us. Lawrence says this is a very generous offer. More generous than most women in your position would get. Most women in my position. Elderly, financially dependent, with no career to fall back on. He was right, and he knew it. And he was counting on me being too scared, too defeated, too old to fight back. That night, after Gabriel went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table and took stock of my life. 46 years of marriage, 2 daughters I'd raised primarily on my own, while Gabriel climbed the corporate ladder. A home I'd maintained, decorated, filled with love and memories. Countless dinners cooked, holidays orchestrated, sick days nursed, achievements celebrated. I'd been the foundation that allowed Gabriel to build his success. And now he wanted to kick that foundation out from under me and keep the entire structure for himself. I thought about my daughters. Sophia lived in Boston with her husband and 2 children. Charlotte was in Seattle with her partner and their twins. They'd always been closer to me than to Gabriel. He'd been too busy working, too focused on his career to really be present in their lives. Would they understand what he was doing to me? Would they support me? I needed to know. So the next morning, after Gabriel left for work wearing that damned cologne again, I called Sophia. Mom? She sounded surprised. We talked regularly, but usually in the evenings. Is everything okay? Your father wants a divorce, I said simply. Silence. Long, shocked silence. Then, what? Mom, no, that can't be right. Dad wouldn't. He would. He did. He told me last night. I could hear her breathing, processing. But why? What happened? Did you 2 have a fight? He just decided he needs to find himself. I couldn't keep the bitterness out of my voice. He's already consulted an attorney. He wants to keep everything, the house, the money, all of it. He's offering me $3,000 a month, as if that's generous. That bastard, Sophia whispered, then louder. Mom, have you noticed anything else? Any other changes in his behavior? Like what? Like another woman. So I wasn't the only one who'd noticed. What have you seen? I asked. Sophia sighed. At Charlotte's birthday party last month, remember? Dad was on his phone constantly. And when I went to put my coat in the guest room, I saw him through the window. He was in the backyard, talking to someone. And Mom, the way he was smiling, I haven't seen him smile like that in years. Not at you, not at us. And there was this woman at his firm's holiday party in December. Young, maybe 45. She kept touching his arm, laughing at everything he said. He introduced her as his assistant. But the way they looked at each other, my suspicions confirmed. There was someone else. Of course there was. Mom, what are you going to do? Sophia's voice was tight with anger and worry. I don't know yet, but I'm not just rolling over and accepting this. I need your help, though. I need the name of a good lawyer. Not a divorce attorney, not yet. Someone who can help me understand my options. Someone who specializes in financial investigations. Financial investigations? Sophia sounded confused. Your father has been hiding something, Sophia. I can feel it. Those credit card charges, the secret phone calls, the sudden need for a divorce. He's not just leaving me for another woman. He's planning something bigger, and I need to find out what before I make any moves. There was a pause, and then Sophia said firmly, I'm coming home. Tomorrow. I'll find you the best lawyer in Vermont if I have to. And Mom, don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. We're gonna fight this. After we hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Not because I thought this would be easy, but because I wasn't alone. My daughter was on my side, and that meant I had a chance. Sophia arrived the next day with her laptop, a determined expression, and the name of an attorney, Patricia Walsh, a lawyer in Burlington, who specialized in high-asset divorces and financial fraud. She'd helped Sophia's friend navigate a complicated divorce where the husband had hidden assets in offshore accounts. "She's expensive, Mom," Sophia warned. "But she's worth it. If Dad is hiding something, Patricia will find it." I used money from my household account to pay for the initial consultation, $300 that I hoped would be the best investment I'd ever made. Patricia Walsh's office was in a modern building downtown, all glass and steel. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 50, with short silver hair and sharp, intelligent eyes that missed nothing. "Mrs. Thornton," she said, shaking my hand firmly, "please, sit down and tell me everything." I did. I told her about the cologne, the late nights, the credit card charges, the sudden demand for divorce. I told her about Gabriel's settlement offer, about how everything was in his name, about my fears that I'd be left with nothing after 46 years. Patricia listened, without interrupting, taking notes on a legal pad. When I finished, she sat back and studied me for a long moment. "Mrs. Thornton," she said finally, "I'm going to be very direct with you. Your husband is planning to rob you blind. This settlement he's proposed, it's an insult. Under Vermont law, you're entitled to 50% of all marital assets, regardless of whose name they're in. The fact that he's offering you essentially nothing tells me he's trying to hide something significant." "Can you find out what?" I asked. "I can try, but Mrs. Thornton, I need to be honest with you. This kind of investigation takes time and money. If your husband has been systematically hiding assets, uncovering them will require forensic accountants, private investigators, extensive document review. Are you prepared for that, both financially and emotionally?" I thought about Gabriel's face across the dinner table, cold and calculating. I thought about 46 years of my life being reduced to a monthly allowance. I thought about the unknown woman who was probably wearing jewelry bought with our money, sleeping in hotel rooms paid for with our credit card. "Yes," I said, "I'm prepared." Patricia smiled, and it was fierce. "Good. Then let's go to war. If you feel my words, show your support by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community so we can bring more truthful stories for you. Over the next 2 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. A spy, a detective, a woman on a mission. Patricia connected me with Raymond Liu, a forensic accountant who'd worked on some of the biggest financial fraud cases in New England. Together, we began piecing together the puzzle of Gabriel's financial life. I photographed every document I could find in Gabriel's study. Bank statements, investment records, tax returns going back 5 years. I forwarded emails from this computer when he left it unlocked. I noted every phone call, every late night, every unexplained absence. I felt guilty at first, invading his privacy like this, but then I'd remember his face when he told me I could keep my jewelry, and the guilt would evaporate. Raymond found the first irregularity within 48 hours. "Thornton," he said over the phone, his voice tight with controlled excitement. "Does the name Cascade Holdings mean anything to you?" "No," I said. "Should it?" "Your husband registered it as an LLC 3 years ago. According to these documents, Cascade Holdings has been receiving regular payments from Morrison and Associates, your husband's firm. Payments labeled as consulting fees." My stomach dropped. "How much? Over the past 3 years?" "Approximately $450,000. $450,000. Money I'd known nothing about. Money that should have been ours, but had been funneled into some secret company Gabriel controlled." "There's more," Raymond continued. "I found evidence of other transfers. Money moving from your joint investment accounts into Cascade Holdings. Small amounts, 5,000 here, 10,000 there. Spread out over time so you wouldn't notice. Mrs. Thornton, your husband has been systematically moving marital assets into this shell company for years. Is that legal?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Absolutely not. This is fraud, Mrs. Thornton. Marital fraud at minimum, possibly more. If he's also defrauding his employer by paying himself through fake consulting fees, that's a criminal matter." I sat down heavily, my legs suddenly weak. Gabriel wasn't just leaving me. He'd been planning this for years, carefully moving our money where I couldn't touch it, setting himself up for a clean getaway while leaving me with nothing. "What do we do?" I asked. We keep digging, Raymond said. And we document everything. Because Mrs. Thornton, when we're done, your husband is going to wish he'd been honest from the start. That night, Gabriel came home late again, smelling of wine and that floral perfume. He barely looked at me as he grabbed a beer from the refrigerator and headed to his study. "Have you thought about my proposal?" he called back. I stood in the kitchen, hands gripping the counter, and took a deep breath. "I'm still considering it." "Don't take too long, Elena." His voice was casual, but I heard the edge beneath it. "The offer expires at the end of the month. After that, things might get more complicated." Was that a threat? I studied his back as he walked away, this man who'd shared my bed for 46 years, and I realized I didn't know him at all. Maybe I never had. The next breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Charlotte called me 3 days later, her voice urgent. "Mom, I found something. Remember how you said Dad has been acting weird? Well, I decided to do some digging on social media. There's a woman named Vivienne Moreau. She works at Dad's firm as a senior associate. And Mom, her Facebook profile is full of photos from places Dad claimed he was on business trips. Lake Placid, Montreal, Burlington restaurants. Same places, same dates as those credit card charges you told me about. Can you send me her profile?" I asked, my heart racing. "Already did. Check your email. And Mom, she's 47 years old, divorced, no kids. According to her LinkedIn, she started at Morrison & Associates 3 years ago." The same time Gabriel registered Cascade Holdings. This was all connected. It had to be. I opened Charlotte's email and stared at Vivienne Moreau's profile photo. She was beautiful, I had to admit. Dark hair, elegant features, sophisticated style. In her photos, she was always impeccably dressed, always smiling, always looking like she belonged in a luxury magazine. She was everything I wasn't. Young, successful, independent. And in several photos, though carefully cropped, I could see the edge of a man's shoulder, a man's hand. In one photo from Lake Placid, I could just make out a reflection in a window. Gabriel's face, smiling at her with an expression I hadn't seen in years. I sat there staring at that photo for a long time, and I felt something shift inside me. The last remnants of my old life, my old self, crumbled away. I wasn't the naive wife anymore. I wasn't the woman who'd believed in happy endings and forever love. I was someone new, someone harder, someone who understood that nice women finish last and trusting hearts get broken. Fine. If Gabriel wanted to play games, I'd play. But I'd play to win. I forwarded everything to Patricia and Raymond. The social media profiles, the photos, the timeline that perfectly matched the credit card charges. Within hours, Patricia called back. "Elena, we've got him. Between the financial fraud and the evidence of the affair, we can destroy his settlement proposal in court. But I need to ask you something important. How far are you willing to go with this?" "What do you mean?" "If we expose Cascade Holdings and the fraudulent payments, we're not just talking about divorce court. Morrison and Associates will have to investigate. If they find evidence that Gabriel has been defrauding the firm, they'll likely press criminal charges. Your husband could face serious legal consequences, possibly even prison time. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about the $3,000 monthly allowance. I thought about Vivienne Moreau's smiling face in those photos. I thought about 46 years of my life being erased like they'd never existed. "Yes," I said, "I'm prepared. Let's burn it all down." The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I made an appointment at a salon in Burlington. I got my hair cut and colored, covering the gray with rich auburn highlights. I bought new clothes, modern pieces that actually fit the woman I was becoming. I even got my nails done, something I'd always considered frivolous. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself, but I liked what I saw. This woman looked strong. This woman looked like she could fight. Gabriel noticed that evening when he came home. He actually stopped in the doorway and stared at me. "You look different," he said, and I couldn't tell if he was pleased or threatened. "I felt like a change," I replied calmly. "After all, if we're getting divorced, I should probably start thinking about my new life, shouldn't I?" Something flickered in his eyes. Uncertainty maybe, like he was starting to realize I wasn't going to be the quiet, compliant wife he'd expected. "Have you made a decision about the settlement?" I smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "Actually, I have. I'm going to decline your generous offer." His face hardened. "Elena, don't be foolish. You have no income, no career. 3,000 a month is more than fair considering—" "Considering what?" I interrupted. "Considering I spent 46 years raising your children and managing your household while you built your career? Considering I gave up my own teaching career when you got that promotion that required us to move? Considering I nursed your mother through her final illness because you were too busy with work?" "That's not what I meant," Gabriel said, but his voice had taken on that patronizing tone I'd learned to hate. "I'm just trying to be realistic about your situation. At your age, with your circumstances, you're not going to do better than what I'm offering." "We'll see about that," I said. "I've hired my own attorney, Patricia Walsh. Perhaps you've heard of her?" The color drained from Gabriel's face. Oh yes, he'd heard of her. Everyone in Vermont's legal community knew Patricia Walsh. She was a shark, and she didn't lose. "You hired Patricia Walsh?" Gabriel's voice rose. "Elena, do you have any idea how expensive she is? How are you even paying for her?" "That's my concern, not yours." He took a step toward me, and for the first time in our marriage, I felt a flutter of real fear. But I stood my ground. "Listen to me very carefully," Gabriel said, his voice low and dangerous. "If you fight me on this, I will make your life hell. I have resources you can't even imagine. Lawyers, connections, money. You'll spend every penny you have and still lose. Is that really what you want?" "What I want," I said quietly, "is what I'm legally entitled to. Half of everything we built together. But Gabriel, if you want to make this ugly, that's your choice. Just remember, you're not the only one with secrets to protect." His eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" I smiled again. "Cascade Holdings, does that ring a bell?" I watched the blood drain from his face, watched panic flash in his eyes before he could mask it. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't you? Interesting. Well, I'm sure it will all come out in court, along with those credit card charges for hotels and restaurants and jewelry. I wonder what Morrison and Associates will think when they see where their money has been going." Gabriel's hands clenched into fists. For a moment I genuinely thought he might hit me. But then he seemed to regain control, taking a step back. "You're making a terrible mistake," he said. "Perhaps, but it's mine to make." He left then, slamming the door so hard the pictures rattled on the walls. I stood in the empty house, my heart pounding, and felt a surge of something that might have been fear or might have been exhilaration. I'd done it. I'd stood up to him, and I was still standing. The next day, Patricia filed my response to Gabriel's divorce petition, but we didn't just file a response. We filed a counterclaim alleging fraud, concealment of marital assets, and adultery. We also filed motions to freeze all accounts, including Cascade Holdings, pending a full forensic audit. And then we waited for the explosion. It came faster than I'd expected. That very afternoon, Gabriel's attorney, Lawrence Blackwell, called Patricia in a rage. I sat in her office listening on speakerphone as he shouted about frivolous claims and harassment and how dare we make such outrageous allegations. Patricia waited until he ran out of steam, then said calmly, "Lawrence, I have bank records showing systematic transfer of marital funds into an LLC registered in Mr. Thornton's name alone. I have credit card statements showing thousands of dollars spent on hotel rooms and gifts. I have photographic evidence placing Mr. Thornton with his mistress in multiple locations. Which part of our claim exactly do you find frivolous?" "Then we'll see you in court." "Looking forward to it," Patricia said, and hung up. She turned to me with a satisfied smile. "That went well." "Did it?" My hands were shaking. "Elena, he's scared. Really scared." That bluster was all an act. Lawrence Blackwell is one of the best divorce attorneys in Vermont, and he knows a losing case when he sees one. I'd bet money they're already discussing settlement options. She was right. 2 days later, Lawrence called back with a new offer. Gabriel would give me the house and 40% of the liquid assets. The retirement accounts would be split 50-50. "What about Cascade Holdings?" Patricia asked. A pause. "That's a separate business entity, not part of the marital estate." Really? Because the money funding it came from marital assets and Mr. Thornton's salary, which is community property in Vermont. We can prove it, Lawrence, in court, in front of a judge, and possibly in front of Morrison and Associates Board of Directors, if we need to subpoena their financial records. Another pause, longer this time. I'll talk to my client. After he hung up, Patricia leaned back in her chair. They're panicking. The mention of Morrison and Associates did it. They know if we expose this, Gabriel doesn't just lose the divorce case. He loses his job, his reputation, possibly his freedom. Good, I said and meant it. But Gabriel wasn't done fighting. That evening I got a visit I hadn't expected. The doorbell rang just as I was making dinner, and when I opened it, there she was, Vivian Moreau in person, looking even more polished than her photos. "Mrs. Thornton," she said, her voice smooth as silk. "May I come in? I think we should talk, woman to woman." Every instinct screamed at me to slam the door in her face. But curiosity won. I wanted to see what game she was playing. "Of course," I said, stepping aside. "Please." She walked into my home, her expensive heels clicking on the hardwood floors I'd refinished myself 5 years ago. She looked around, taking in the family photos, the furniture I'd carefully selected, the life I'd built. "Lovely home," she said, but there was something condescending in her tone. "Thank you. Can I offer you something to drink? Coffee? Tea? Or perhaps wine? I believe Gabriel bought you the 2015 Bordeaux with our credit card last month." Her smile tightened. "No, thank you. Mrs. Thornton, I came here because Gabriel is very concerned about you. He says you're not being rational about this divorce." "Is that what he says? He told me about the accusations you're making, the fraud claims, the frozen accounts. Mrs. Thornton, surely you realize these tactics are only going to hurt you in the end. Gabriel has been very generous with his settlement offer. More generous than most men would be in his position." I sat down in my favorite armchair and folded my hands in my lap. "And what position is that exactly?" Vivian's eyes narrowed. "The position of a man who's trying to do the right thing, to end a marriage that's been over for years with dignity and fairness." "Dignity," I repeated. "Is there dignity in stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from your wife? Is there dignity in hiding assets in shell companies? In lying, cheating, planning to leave your wife of 46 years destitute? Gabriel would never. Gabriel has been funneling money out of our marriage for 3 years, I said quietly. The same 3 years you've been working at his firm. The same 3 years you've been sleeping with him. Quite a coincidence, don't you think?" Vivian's composure cracked just slightly. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't you? Tell me, Vivian, do you know where the money for those expensive dinners came from? The jewelry you're wearing right now, is that the necklace Gabriel bought in February? The one that cost $4,000? "My $4,000? Her hand went to her throat, touching the diamond pendant there. "Did Gabriel tell you how he paid for it?" I continued. "Did he mention that he transferred money from our joint investment account into Cascade Holdings, then used Cascade to make the purchase? That's called money laundering, Vivian. It's also fraud, and you're wearing the evidence." She stood up abruptly. "You're crazy. You're a bitter old woman who can't accept that your husband has moved on." "Perhaps," I said, "but I'm a bitter old woman with an excellent lawyer and a paper trail. Tell me, Vivian, did Gabriel mention that Morrison and Associates is starting an internal investigation into Cascade Holdings? That they've discovered the consulting fees they've been paying might have been fraudulent?" "That's not possible." "Isn't it? You work there. You must have noticed the auditors going through the financial records. Or has Gabriel been keeping you in the dark about that too?" Vivian backed toward the door. "Gabriel said you'd be difficult. He said you'd try to manipulate me. And yet here you are in my home, trying to convince me to accept $3,000 a month after 46 years of marriage. Who's manipulating whom, Vivian?" She left without another word, practically running to her red BMW. I watched her drive away and felt a grim satisfaction. Let her go running back to Gabriel. Let them panic together. That night Gabriel called me 14 times. I didn't answer. He left voicemails that started angry and ended desperate. "Elena, we need to talk." "That's not what's happening with Morrison. It's just a routine audit. Elena, please, call me back. We can work this out. But we couldn't work it out. That bridge had burned the moment he'd decided I was disposable. The next week the hammer fell. Morrison and Associates completed their investigation and found exactly what Raymond had predicted. Gabriel had been creating fake consulting contracts, billing his own firm through Cascade Holdings, and pocketing the money. $450,000 over 3 years. The firm fired him immediately and filed a lawsuit for repayment of the stolen funds. They also reported the fraud to the State Attorney General's office. Gabriel called me that night from a burner phone I didn't recognize. His voice was shaking. Elena, please, I need your help. Morrison is suing me. They're talking about criminal charges. If you drop your complaint, if you tell them this was all a misunderstanding, maybe they'll back off. Why would I do that? I asked calmly. Because I'm still your husband. Because we have 46 years together. Because... His voice broke. Because I'm begging you. Please, Elena. I made mistakes, I know that. But I don't deserve this. Don't you? I asked. You were going to leave me with nothing, Gabriel. $3,000 a month after I gave you my entire adult life. You stole from me, from your employer, from everyone who trusted you. And now you want me to save you? I'll give you everything, he said desperately. The house, the money, all of it. Just please help me fix this with Morrison. You should have thought about consequences before you committed fraud. Pause. I hung up on him, and I didn't feel guilty. I felt free and strong. The divorce hearing was scheduled for September, but it became clear we'd never make it that far. Gabriel's legal situation was deteriorating rapidly. The State Attorney General filed criminal charges, wire fraud, embezzlement, money laundering, 7 counts in total. Morrison and Associates' lawsuit was proceeding. Gabriel had to hire a criminal defense attorney, which meant he could barely afford his divorce lawyer anymore. Strong. Lawrence Blackwell called Patricia in early August with a new settlement proposal. Gabriel would give me everything. The house, 75% of all remaining assets, the retirement accounts. He'd waive spousal support obligations. Strong. He just wanted it over. What do you think? Patricia asked me. I thought about Gabriel's face when he told me I could keep my jewelry. I thought about Vivian Moreau standing in my kitchen, calling me bitter. I thought about 46 years of partnership being reduced to pocket change. I think, I said slowly, that 75% isn't enough. I want everything. The house, the accounts, the investments, all of it. He can keep his clothes and his car. That's it. Patricia raised her eyebrows. Elena, that's aggressive. A judge might not award you 100%. Then let's go to trial. Let Gabriel explain to a judge why he deserves anything after stealing from me for 3 years. I was hoping you'd say that. But we never made it to trial. 2 weeks before our court date, Gabriel's criminal case went to a grand jury. They indicted him on all 7 counts. If convicted, he was looking at 10 to 15 years in federal prison. Suddenly, the divorce became the least of his problems. His new offer came through Lawrence Blackwell, who sounded exhausted. Mrs. Thornton gets everything. The house, all marital assets, retirement accounts, everything except Mr. Thornton's personal effects. In exchange, she agrees not to pursue any further claims and to cooperate with his criminal defense if called as a witness. The cooperation clause is reasonable, but I want it in writing that Gabriel admits to the fraud, to the affair, and to the attempt to defraud Elena of her marital property. He'll never agree to that. Then we'll see him in court, and Elena will testify at his criminal trial about every detail of his fraud. How he hid money, how he planned to leave her destitute, all of it. I'm sure the prosecutor would love her testimony. Silence. Then, I'll talk to my client. Gabriel agreed to everything. The admission of fault, the transfer of all assets, everything. The final divorce decree was signed on a rainy Tuesday in late September. I didn't attend. I didn't need to. Patricia handled it all. And when she called to tell me it was done, I felt something release in my chest. You're a free woman, Elena, she said. And a wealthy one. Congratulations. But the real victory came 2 months later at Gabriel's criminal trial. I did testify, just as I'd promised. I sat in that witness box and told the truth about everything. The hidden accounts, the transfers, the fake consulting fees. I told them about the credit card statements, about Vivian Moreau, about Gabriel's plan to leave me with nothing. The jury convicted him on all counts. The judge sentenced him to 8 years in federal prison and ordered full restitution to Morrison and Associates. As the marshals led Gabriel away in handcuffs, he looked back at me one last time. I met his eyes steadily. No satisfaction, no triumph, just calm certainty. This was justice. Vivian Moreau didn't fare much better. Morrison and Associates investigated her involvement and found that she helped Gabriel create some of the fraudulent contracts. They fired her and referred her case to the State Bar Association. Her law license was suspended pending investigation. Last I heard, she'd moved back to Montreal, her career in ruins. As for me, I sold the house in Millbrook. Too many ghosts, too many memories of a life that had been a lie. I bought a small cottage in Stowe with a view of the mountains and a garden big enough for all the flowers I'd ever wanted to plant. I used part of the settlement to set up trust funds for my grandchildren's education. I donated to women's shelters and organizations that helped older women navigate divorce. And I started taking classes again, rediscovering all the interests I'd set aside during 46 years of marriage. Sophia and Charlotte visited often, bringing the grandchildren. We'd bake cookies and take walks and talk about everything under the sun. They'd never been prouder of me, they said. I'd shown them what it meant to stand up for yourself, to refuse to be erased. I even started dating eventually. Nothing serious, just coffee and dinners with kind men who treated me with respect. One of them, a retired professor named Harrison, made me laugh in a way I hadn't laughed in decades. We've been seeing each other for 6 months now, taking it slow, building something real. Life is good. Better than good. At 72 years old, I've discovered who I really am outside of being Gabriel's wife. I'm Elena Thornton, and I'm enough all by myself. Sometimes late at night in my cottage, with the mountain breeze coming through the windows, I think about the woman I was before all this started. That frightened, uncertain woman who'd let herself become invisible, who'd believed her worth was measured by her husband's approval and her children's accomplishments. That woman is gone, and I don't miss her. In her place is someone stronger, someone who learned that it's never too late to fight for yourself, never too late to demand what you're worth, never too late to start over. I keep in occasional contact with Patricia Walsh, who's become something of a friend. She tells me I inspired her to take on more cases like mine, women in their 60s and 70s being discarded by husbands who think age makes them powerless. She wins most of those cases. And every time she does, she sends me a text, another one for Team Elena. Raymond Liu, the forensic accountant, sometimes calls to ask if I'd be willing to talk to his other clients, women who are scared and overwhelmed by the financial complexity of divorce. I always say yes. I tell them what I learned, that knowledge is power, that documentation is everything, that they're stronger than they know. My daughters have become fierce advocates for women's financial independence. Sophia started a blog about the importance of women maintaining their own accounts and credit histories even in marriage. Charlotte volunteers at a legal aid clinic, helping low-income women navigate divorce. They both credit my story with opening their eyes to how vulnerable women can be when they trust completely. As for Gabriel, he served 5 years of his 8-year sentence before being released on parole. I heard he's working as a night shift manager at a warehouse, living in a small apartment on the outskirts of Burlington. His accounting license was permanently revoked. His reputation is destroyed. Everything he spent his life building is gone. I'm not glad about his suffering, but I'm not sorry either. He made his choices. Now he lives with them, just like I live with mine. I'm writing this from my garden, where the late afternoon sun is painting everything gold. Harrison is coming over for dinner tonight, and I'm making my grandmother's lasagna recipe. Tomorrow, Sophia arrives with the grandchildren for a long weekend. Next week, I'm starting an art class at the community center. My life is full in ways it never was during those 46 years of marriage. Full of friendship and laughter and possibility. Full of purpose and independence and joy. Full of me. So what did I learn from all of this? I learned that strength doesn't always look like fighting. Sometimes it looks like patience, careful planning, strategic waiting. I learned that you're never too old to stand up for yourself, to demand justice, to refuse to disappear. I learned that the skills we develop as wives and mothers and homemakers, those supposedly trivial domestic skills, are actually powerful tools. Organization, attention to detail, long-term planning, resource management. Those are the skills that helped me win. Most importantly, I learned that my worth isn't determined by my relationship status, or my age, or what someone else thinks of me. My worth is inherent, unchangeable, mine alone to define. If you're listening to this and you're facing something similar, if you're being told you're too old, too dependent, too powerless to fight back, please hear me. You're not. You're stronger than you know. You're more valuable than they want you to believe, and you deserve so much better than crumbs. Document everything. Find good lawyers and accountants and friends who believe in you. Trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, it probably is. And never ever sign away your rights because someone tells you it's the best you can do. You deserve half, you deserve respect, you deserve dignity, and you deserve a future you choose for yourself. Before I close, I want to say this. If you feel my words, show your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community so we can bring more truthful stories for you. Stories that matter. Stories that might help someone somewhere realize they're not alone. I get letters sometimes from women who've heard my story. They write to tell me they filed for divorce. They hired a lawyer. They stood up to a husband who thought they'd just roll over. They write to thank me for showing them it was possible. Because every time a woman chooses herself, every time she refuses to be diminished or erased, every time she fights for what she deserves, she makes the world a little bit better for all of us. Last month, I got a letter from a woman in Phoenix. She was 74, married for 51 years, and her husband had just asked for a divorce so he could marry his yoga instructor. She wrote, "I found your story online, and it changed everything. I thought I was too old to fight, that I should just accept whatever he offered and be grateful. But then I read what you did, and I realized I could fight too. I hired a lawyer today. Thank you for showing me the way." I cried when I read that letter. Happy tears, proud tears. Because that's the real victory, isn't it? Not just winning our own battles, but lighting the way for other women to win theirs. There's a quote I read once that stayed with me. Well-behaved women seldom make history. For 46 years, I was well-behaved. I was quiet and compliant and accommodating. I put everyone else first and asked for nothing. And where did it get me? Nearly discarded like trash at 71 years old. But when I stopped being well-behaved, when I stood up and fought back and refused to be silenced, that's when I made my history. That's when I became someone worth remembering. I'm not suggesting every woman should get divorced or burn down her marriage. If you're happy, if your partnership is genuine and equal and loving, then hold on to that. Cherish it. But if you're reading this and something resonates, if you recognize yourself in my story, then please, please listen to what I'm telling you. You matter. Your contributions matter. The life you've built matters. And you don't have to accept being erased. I often think about that night when Gabriel first told me he wanted a divorce. How my hands trembled as I looked at those papers. How small and powerless I felt. If I could go back and tell that woman anything, I'd tell her, "You're about to discover how strong you really are. This is going to hurt, and it's going to be hard, but you're going to survive it. More than survive, you're going to thrive. Trust yourself. Fight for yourself. You're worth it." The same is true for anyone listening to this. You're worth fighting for. You're worth standing up for. You're worth choosing, even when choosing yourself feels selfish or scary or impossible. Harrison just texted to say he's bringing wine for dinner. A good Pinot Noir from a vineyard we visited last month in Napa. We took that trip on a whim, just decided one morning that we wanted to see California wine country. We stayed in charming bed and breakfasts, took long walks through vineyards, ate incredible food, and laughed until our sides hurt. That's what freedom looks like. making plans on a whim, choosing joy, living for yourself instead of in someone else's shadow. I'm 72 years old, and I've never been happier. My life is mine, fully and completely. My choices are my own. My future is what I make it. And that, more than any settlement or court victory, is the real triumph. So here's what I want to leave you with. It's never too late. Never too late to stand up, to speak out, to fight back. Never too late to discover your own strength. Never too late to choose yourself. Your age doesn't make you powerless. Your dependence doesn't make you helpless. Your history doesn't define your future. You are capable of so much more than you know. And if you're going through something like what I went through, please remember, you're not alone. There's an entire community of women who've walked this path before you, who've survived and thrived and come out stronger on the other side. Reach out. Ask for help. Find your Patricia Walsh, your Raymond Liu, your daughters who believe in you. Most of all, believe in yourself, because I promise you, you're worth believing in. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. I hope something I've said today helps you, inspires you, or simply reminds you that you're not alone. If you feel my words, show your support by liking this video and subscribing to the channel. And tell me from which city you belong, so I can see how far a woman's impactful voice can reach. Help me build this community, so we can bring more truthful stories for you. Until next time, this is Elena Thornton, reminding you that you're stronger than you know, braver than you believe, and worthy of every good thing this life has to offer. Never forget that. Never let anyone convince you otherwise. And remember, well-behaved women seldom make history. So go ahead, be a little rebellious, stand up, fight back, make your own history. I believe in you. The sun is setting now over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange and gold. It's beautiful, this view from my cottage, this life I've built from the ashes of my old one. Every sunset reminds me that endings can be beautiful too, that sometimes things have to fall apart so better things can come together. My story isn't unique. Somewhere right now, another woman is discovering her husband's betrayal. Another woman is being told she's too old, too dependent, too powerless to fight back. Another woman is staring at divorce papers that would leave her with nothing. And I hope my story finds her. I hope it shows her that she has options, that she has power, that she can fight back and win. Because we're stronger together, we women who refuse to be erased. We're a force to be reckoned with when we stand up for ourselves and each other. And every story we share, every battle we win, makes it easier for the next woman to find her courage. So share this story if it resonated with you. Share it with your mother, your sister, your friend who might need to hear it. Share it with every woman who's ever been told she doesn't matter, that her contributions don't count, that she should be grateful for whatever scraps she's offered. Because we all matter, every single one of us. And it's time the world remembered that. This is Elena Thornton, signing off from my little cottage in Stowe, Vermont. May you always know your worth, fight for your rights, and never ever let anyone convince you to settle for less than you deserve. Until next time, dear listeners, stay strong, stay fierce, and remember, you're never too old to rewrite your story. Goodbye for now.